How's everybody doing? How's things? How's life? How's yours? How has your week been? What has everybody been up to? We have some interesting news to talk about. Hello, John, who's not going to be here. Hello, Luca, and hello, Essentialist. How you doing? How's things? Well, YouTube says I'm live, so that's wonderful. Let me do that, and there we go. Right. Well, hey, at least this one's live, right? And you can, talk to her. um, Let me just destroy my arm real quick. So, has everyone seen the news? Has everyone seen, obviously, most importantly, my video on the topic? Not many people have seen that. How am I today? Not amazing. Not amazing. Overwhelmed, I think, is the phrase. Hello, HMB. How you doing? How's things? Hello, Luca. Made smash burgers. Nice. No, I was so shocked you released a video today. I haven't watched it. Well, it was the news announcement, so NDA. Why not? Yeah, we'll be back to regularly scheduled videos on Monday. I actually didn't know for sure that I was gonna make that video because the press call for Our Lake was like, I think it was the Friday, like the day after last week's stream. So when there was enough information for me to definitely want to cover it, I decided on, or no, was it Monday? No, it was this Monday. So yeah. I'm hanging in there. Watched your video first because the least annoying thumbnail. Well, thanks. All I know is something Asus RG AIO cooler. That's not involved in at least my video at all. 192 core server CPUs now. Yeah, from AMD, Intel's 128. Yeah. Was it not in your press kit? My press kit hasn't arrived yet. I think it's arriving tomorrow. So yeah, we'll see. That reminds me, I need to. The lovely folks at CyberPower are sending over a system with AMD stuff. The 9950X, the 9900X, the 9700X, the 9600X, and the 7800X 3D, I think, if I remember rightly. But I need to double check when that is arriving. So I need to set a reminder for myself tomorrow, because otherwise I will forget. There we go. How many of those can you keep long term? None of the AMD ones, unfortunately. That will everything from CyberPower will go back, whereas everything from Intel will be mine to keep. I did ask AMD both on launch of the 9000 series and a couple weeks ago now if I could have some. They said yes, we'll get you some at launch, and then that didn't happen, and they've not returned my email for the update one, which might be because the person that I emailed doesn't work there anymore, because that happens an awful lot. So it's all musical chairs, and it's fun for me to try and keep an eye on it. But yeah, the cooler they're apparently sending with Intel's 350 euros. Like what? I mean, it is. If it is an Asus RG one, then that's not that surprising. I'm sure that someone like Arctic will sell it to you for 150 instead. I do have an Asus motherboard coming. That is coming tomorrow. I have the tracking number for that one. The Intel one, I don't have a tracking number for, so we'll see. Hello Simon, and hello John. Hi driving but lurking the next 25 minutes, how am I? Not well. No. Oh, the Raijin 3, yeah, fair. I mean, I take it it's the 360 mil AIO? Because I should be, well, my normal AIO is the Corsair, or whatever it is, the one with the screen on it. That's also probably ridiculously expensive. That one is 360. Yeah, fair. Hello Ish, how you doing? How's things? Good to have you. Luca, you mean the Ultra 9? Yeah. What does everyone think of the naming scheme? Um, yeah. Yeah. No, there's a lot of interesting new stuff with the Arrow Lake chips. Obviously, um, I well, on the Intel press portal, I what you call it? They give you access to a load of like pre-briefing, like embargoed materials and things that I can't show before a certain time period. So, for example, today's video, all of the slides that you see in the video are all embargoed content. So I was not like legally allowed to share any of those slides or any of that information before 4 p.m. today. But for a brief moment, and I wish that I'd downloaded it, the reviewer's guide was there for the chips. Which to be clear, because I'm someone who's been reviewing tech for it'll be 13 years next year, right? And professionally for a decade. So I'm used to this sort of thing, but I appreciate that if I say reviewer's guide to, let's say, the uninitiated and the skeptical, you might infer that that means like they tell you what to say. To be clear, that's not what a reviewer's guide is. A reviewer's guide is mostly just like all of the key facts and information about the product, like the company's own internal testing that you can use, not necessarily as numbers you provide, but as a reference point to be able to. So, for example, with Intel, they'll provide you things like Cinebench numbers and game test results with whatever spec configuration they say. And then you can use that information so that when I go and test, the 1285, no, the 285K, on Cinebench, whatever, I can look at my numbers, look at Intel's numbers, and make sure that they're pretty much close enough so that I know that I don't have some bug or issue with my configuration. No, I don't have that reviewer's guide. I think it should be put back in the press portal pretty soon, but I'm not allowed to share the reviewer's guide anyway, so it doesn't matter. But point is, I will hopefully have it soon, and I'll hopefully have the chip soon. But you will see that information on October 24th, I think is when the NDA is. I would double check for you, but if I open Thunderbird, it's going to make lots of noises, and I don't want to burden you with that. So yeah. The review guide. It's Ultra 9 now, not i9. I'm sure that someone will make that forget that in their discussion points. When you talk to your supplier, you still say give me the i7. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you will. I'm sure that like most people for the next probably 3 to 5 years will still call them i5, i7, i9. Colloquially, even if people like me are meant to say Ultra 9. I'm dirty saying it. They should have gone with single digit names this time. Well, the problem with single digit names is, well, okay, as I said in the video, to be a bit pedantic, the fact that the last number does nothing, like means nothing, and the middle number is now a step lower. So like there are exceptions. So like a 14 or a 13400F or an 11400F. Let's go with some good chips. An 11400F is an i5, not an i3. which does kind of confuse the naming scheme a little because it is lower. But for example, an i9, well, and then but then there was the i9 10850K, so maybe they have broken it before actually. Either way, I kind of don't like that the i9, like the only i9 that they're launching is an 8 class part, not a 9 class part. Sorry, an Ultra 9. Shit, I've already got it wrong. The 9 Ultra 9 i9 class part is the 285K, not the 295K or the 290. I also don't like that there's a certain number. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a pedant for naming schemes, and this does not spark joy. Ultra is a name. It's like their highest tier of product. It is a bit weird that they're all called Core Ultra 9, Core Ultra 5, Core Ultra 3, I assume will be coming at some point. You know, it feels a bit weird. I don't know. The main thing that will matter is the merits of the chips themselves. And what I would say, right, is I've been on a lot of these press briefing calls for AMD and for Nvidia. Not for Nvidia, for Intel. I've been on a lot of these press briefing calls, and what I would say is that, especially on this one, like the one on Monday, this was possibly a more open feel. So it was Robert Halleck, who used to work at AMD, and I've actually met in person. Really nice guy, interesting taste in shirts. Along with I've already forgotten their names, so I'm very sorry to those people, but two other Intel staff, one sort of product expert and one someone different. Anyway, point is, especially when it got to the Q&A section, but even the slide deck itself, like the information in the slide deck, it it was a lot more like open. Now, to be clear, there is still plenty of marketing trickery going on. You know, like as I mentioned in the video, actually, the whole you can drop the power limit to 125 watts and you lose no performance in these 7 games, which I have to assume are the best 7 for that, like to make that point. So like there is still, you know, plenty of marketing trickery going on. Don't be fooled. But the fact that they were open about the fact that the 285K is, even in their own testing, slower than the 14900K in gaming is kind of a big deal. And then when they were answering questions in the Q&A, again, they were pretty open about, I think one of the questions that was asked and answered was about AMD, like, how do you think this will stack up against, you know, Ryzen 9000 X3D chips? And they said, like, we know we're going to be a bit slower, but, you know, we're happy with the efficiency gains, the power, you know, power consumption gains that we've got here, and, you know, we're really happy with this platform. Like, they admitted they know they won't be as fast as AMD. That's kind of huge, you know? And so, yeah, it seems they seem a little bit more open, and I kind of like that. Is it even more efficiency cores? So no, the big changes to the architecture are, so it's all the same number of cores, but hyperthreading is gone. So even the P cores now do not have hyperthreading. So these are the 285K is an 8P 16E, so 24 core chip that only has 24 threads, whereas the 1400K will have had, I can't do maths, 16 threads from the P cores and then 16, so 32 threads in total instead of 24. But that drops power consumption. They have also redesigned the core quite considerably. And here's the real thing. They're using TSMC's process node. None of the chip, except for the base tile, is made by Intel. None of it. That's pretty huge. The compute tile, the cores themselves are made with TSMC's N3B node, which I think is what AMD is using for Ryzen, for the compute tiles, or maybe they're still N4 actually. I don't remember. They're using TSMC, which has made clearly quite the difference to the efficiency because they've gone from uh about 10 nanometer all the way down to what, 3 to 4 nanometer. To be clear, again, the nanometer measurement is not the feature size measurement. After like 32 nanometer or whatever, they stopped measuring actual feature size and just started saying smaller number is better. But yeah. Hello, Jim. My question for that is, do they admit that only to influencers, tech sphere, but general consumers they still say Intel's the best? Well, I have to assume so. I doubt that they're going to actively market that they are slower than their competitors. That doesn't seem like sound business, decisions. So yeah, they are gonna still find ways to say that they're the best. However, they at no point, I think, claimed actual like performance and gaming leadership, like the top spot. And if they're not claiming that to us, that means they're probably not going to be claiming that in wider general marketing. Um, they might claim efficiency. They might claim just generally great gaming performance, but I don't think that they'll be claiming that they are the fastest gaming chip. Intel is looking to build a fab in the USA. I think they might have. Um, Point is, even if they do have one currently, TSMC has finished building their fab in Arizona, which is now able to basically double their production count, which is insane. Um, and means that chip manufacturing is now secured in the event of one China taking over the other. Uh, so yeah. Are Intel gonna push behind the scenes to re-emerge like AMD did with Ryzen? They were pretty dead before that with just consoles and Bulldozer plus plus plus. um, so I think this is Intel's uh kind of big push because there is a lot new going on here. We have fully redesigned P cores, pretty impressively redesigned E cores as well. Linked the fact that the L3 cache connects to both P cores and E cores, I think is actually going to be pretty huge for the whole core switching and scheduler component aspect. Um, and then you also have the fact that these are all tiled, so Intel can now more easily ish design variants of chips that have different configurations. So, for example, previous to this, Intel would have to basically design every chip from scratch. There might be a difference in, so like, or at least every SKU from like product category from scratch. So, if Intel wanted to have their laptop parts have an 8 core or a 12 core GPU section, they would just have to build a whole new CPU with a different chip on it, right? Maybe they put the integrated graphics on a separate die and glue them together. They did do that for a bit, but all that sort of stuff they'd have to change, right? But now, well, now they can design those tiles individually, so they can design a 6 core tile and they can design a 6P core tile and they can design a uh you know 8E2P core tile, whatever. And then they can just plop that tile on a base tile, pair it with whatever size GPU they want, pair it with whatever IO tile they want, pair it with whatever SoC tile they want. And it becomes much more modular, and it becomes much easier for them to be kind of versatile in the their chip design. Again, the fact that they're using not only TSMC for their compute tile, but they're using each of the tiles, say for the IO tile and the SOC tile, are both on N5P or something. But everything else, the GPU is N5P, the SoC tile and the IO tile are N6, and then the core tile is N3B. So they're using 3 different process nodes on one chip, plus the Intel base tile. And that is the magic that AMD introduced with their chiplet design, where they were using, I want to say 7 nanometer, like TSMC N7 for the first chipleted Ryzen chips, for the core dies, but they were still using Global Foundries 14 nanometer for the IO, or the IO tile, or the IO die. And that the magic of that is that you can have like, you have a limited amount of wafers that you can buy from people like TSMC, and especially per process node. So if you can spread out your order across 3 different process nodes, well, now you've doubled or tripled or quadrupled your the number of chips that you can take, often for a decent discount, because using older process nodes is generally cheaper than using the newer ones. And you get better yields, and like, there's so many benefits. And so that is a pretty big deal for Intel. And also the fact that they're not using their own stuff is really big deal. Hello, Joe. How you doing, man? How's things? No worries, Jim. I hope the mess is contained. I'm actually really excited to see power efficiency results. I like cooler computing. 80 watts over a couple hours can make a big difference in room temp. I actually agree, especially on warmer days. It like, I just cannot play games because it's so ridiculously warm. So I'm with you on that one. I'm definitely interested in that too. I'm interested in the gaming efficiency differences, because generally speaking, the CPU doesn't often do all that much in gaming. Like, gaming is often not necessarily a all-core workload, you know, which is how you get the most power consumption. So yeah, I'll be interested to see that for sure. And Joe, no worries. Glad to have you. I'm not good. Do you think Windows 11 ARM was a ploy to push Intel and AMD to focus on efficiency to combat Chromebooks? I think that Windows 11 for ARM is arising from a number of chip options from people like Qualcomm, but also from mine's gone blank for the other chip options. Point is, the ARM has generally been seen as the future of computing for quite a while. There's a reason why there's an ARM chip in your phone and tablet, and not an x86 chip. Yeah, MediaTek, people like those. Samsung make ARM chips as well. As does Nvidia, technically. I think. Oh, Tegra was x86, wasn't it? Anyway, before I go mad, before it's a stretch, focus. I think that the the reason that Windows 11 for ARM exists is not necessarily as a ploy for Microsoft to try and push Intel and AMD to be more efficient. I think that Microsoft sees the writing on the wall and sees that, especially for mobile computing like laptops, tablets, two-in-ones, that sort of stuff, ARM is likely the better, more efficient choice, and therefore they want to be at least somewhere in the line when it comes to, uh, you know, which operating system are you gonna pick? um, I think that Chromebooks serve quite a very specific purpose. The fact that they are inherently kind of locked down in the sense that I know you can, like, I know that they're basically Linux machines. I know you can install Android apps, but for the sorts of places that buy lots of Chromebooks, aka things like schools, they like that it is a pretty simple, like, you just sign in with a Google ID, which is often your school Google ID, and then, you know, it just sort of automagically works. Like that, they don't have to have like on-prem servers for, you know, handling file storage. They just pay Google for it. I'm not saying this is a good thing, by the way. I'm just explaining why they pick it. And yeah, I think the answer is it makes it a lot simpler and easier. And yeah, it'll cost more, but you know, yeah. So yeah, I think that's why Windows 11 for ARM exists. Is Microsoft want to have that as an option, so that when there are more ARM chips available, you know, they saw the success with Apple. That's what I was trying to. Apple's M chips are ARM chips, and macOS very readily supports those chips quite well. ARM just license and design stuff. Yes, ARM is a design firm, and then they license their designs, their core designs and whatnot, to people like Apple, to Qualcomm, to Samsung, to MediaTek, to where is it? To, if you're able to read this, probably not. Microchip. That's an ARM CPU. Technically, it's a microcontroller, but you know. The Cortex M's. No, this is the M4 Plus actually. The M0 is one over there. AMD still have greater efficiency for power use than Intel. Intel was always a more stable CPU, but since they changed to the tile system, they're more prone to crashing. Well, this is... So the first tiled chip was Meteor Lake, right? I think so. So yeah, there haven't been many actually shipped, and Lunar Lake now. So yeah, we'll have to see. How's monitor testing going? Fine. I don't think I have any new monitors in actually at the moment, so yeah. The tools are going good though. And the bed cooler heater project. Well, that one I actually have. So I've blown it up again. This is the open source bed cooler that I'm working on. It's actually a bed cooler and heater. Internet of Things, Home Assistant, ESP Home, locally controlled. But I need to replace this MOSFET, which I've put a heatsink on, as you can see. And I need to add some resistors to my thermoelectric cooler, my Peltier module. I need to splice them into these wires to add them as current limiting resistors. Which I'm actually doing tomorrow, because I've finished 2 videos this week so far. and so I can work on that along with a load of other stuff I need to do tomorrow. Hello, Booyer. How you doing? How's things? Efficiency. Efficiency. Um. Da, 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 da. I heard they're trying Copilot again. Is that on our machines too? So Copilot Plus needs an AI accelerator on board, whether that's a GPU or whether that is an NPU, a neural processing unit, is yet to be determined. But it needs to have I think it's 40 tops, 40 trillion operations per second, as its baseline or benchmark. And interestingly, these new Arrowlight desktop chips do not support that. They have a 13 tops NPU, which might help some things, but yeah, kind of interesting. Whereas Lunar Lake, the mobile stuff, they do have the 48 tops one, which is interesting. M chips would be great if you weren't tied to Apple. I know, right? But then again, the kind of problem is that the fact that they are tied to Apple is what makes the ecosystem so inviting to the uninitiated. And why things like Rosetta, work so ridiculously well. I presumed it was on those machines, but the victims that buy them might be less savvy knowledgeable to avoid the ingrained spyware. Yeah. Yeah, my understanding is it needs at least 40 tops of AI computing performance to activate to qualify. Yeah. Yeah, to see a good use for an NPU. Yeah, so what Intel were saying in the press call on Monday was basically that there are lots of things that could use an NPU, and also it's kind of an availability problem. The vast majority of desktops or just PCs in general do not have an NPU available, and so much like Linux gaming adoption, why should a games company, or in this case, some other software development company, integrate an NPU or integrate Linux gaming support, push for Linux, build for Linux, when so little of the user base would actually be able to make use of it? What they've done instead is just use the GPU. Because if you have a desktop GPU, those are hundreds of tops. And even if you have an integrated GPU, there's a good chance that as long as it's not complete crap, it's enough to do whatever AI experience you want your thing to do. So yeah, the short answer is that it most apps that do local AI stuff use whatever graphics card you have to do it, not an NPU, even if there's one there. I think Intel wants to push towards having one in all the chips so that they, change their coding over to, if you have an NPU, use that instead. But I think that's going to take quite a while, and so yeah, it's going to be a while before we see any even potential use cases for it. Although I think, interestingly, the way that I know that AI is likely here to stay for a while, uh, is the fact that it's actively being hardware is being built for it, and not just by Antminer, but by Intel and AMD and Nvidia. Linux building is so fragmented. I like Valve's idea standardizing their ports to Ubuntu for compatibility and sane Wine defaults. I've started using Steam to launch Wine apps on the desktop. Interesting, as it allows just regular apps to just run without messing with Wine. That is pretty cool. I mean, Proton and Wine, which, if you don't know, Wine stands for Wine is not a compatibility layer, which does mean that it's recursive, or yeah, recursive, which is beautifully funny. Um, or Wine is not an emulator. But yeah, Wine is similar to an emulator, but it's actually a compatibility layer in the same way that Proton is. And it basically lets you real time run apps that were compiled for Windows on Linux. It's really cool. It has been pretty sketch to try and make it work a lot of the time. But it's kind of cool that you could, if you just launch stuff through Steam, like on Linux, that makes it work. That's pretty cool. I like that. I do definitely want to give as I said in the video, the Windows 11 or the why Windows sucks video, um, there will be a time when I'm forced off of Windows 10, and I genuinely think that I'm going to be installing Debian or something similar, not Windows 11 or 12. But I do want to be able to play with Linux and get used to it before that has to happen. But also, I don't really want to dual boot it. So, I don't know. We'll see. Um, recursive acronyms. Acronyms give me panic attacks if I think about them longer than 23 seconds. It's okay. You can stop whenever you want. There's always some weird app only written for Windows. That's true. I mean, my own apps are all written for Windows, so that's something to consider. Uh, but yeah. Cortex latest video shows off some of the very impressive global illumination performance of UE5. He expects it could be the end of reliance on game devs and RTX. Well, that's cool. I do like non-proprietary. Well, I mean, technically, it's one game engine rather than. But cool. I like that. Most garages still using XP. Oh yeah, no, I know. I know. Yeah. I think no, my diagnostic laptops are all Windows 10 now because compatibility can make it work. But I was running Windows 7 on my car diagnostic laptop for quite a long time because the, let's face it, not dealership approved installation of I think it was Volvo's dealership software would only support technically XP, but 7 was just about okay. You can make it work on 7. I'm using 11 now. Per soul. Rest in peace. For Diax. Oh, really? What version of? Oh, I guess if you're using VCDS, it's probably fine. There was a recent set of documentaries on YouTube about the UK National Grid, and a bunch of their controller computers are still on XP. Really hope they're air gapped. I'm pretty sure that the UK government has a number of people on payroll trying to hack the National Grid. Because otherwise the power would have gone out a long time ago. Um, so yeah, I have to assume that they either are or they are so well firewalled that it's fine, you know. Um, but yeah, Stuxnet knows that even air gapping is not always enough. That's true. Okay, for the uninitiated in the crowd, Stuxnet was a I think it was like American and Israeli, like CIA, NSA type virus that was very specifically, well, it exploited a couple of at the time unknown vulnerabilities, which basically allowed it to uh, copy itself silently to uh, any networked machines. So if you get an infected email or whatever, um, the Stuxnet could uh, replicate onto every single machine on that network, which is insane. And then it would also stick itself on things like USB sticks. With the very specific thing is that the what you call it? The virus was very specifically meant to do absolutely nothing and be otherwise as close to undetectable as possible, unless it found a computer that was connected to a very specific PLC, which is programmable logic controller, which is basically a fancy motor controller. And if it was connected to one of those very specific, very fancy motor controllers, it would quietly corrupt the motor controller, the motor controller's program to wreak havoc on the motor that it was connected to. And specifically, the motor that it was designed to be connected to is centrifuges that help refining uranium for potential either nuclear weapons or for power, specifically in Iran. Amazingly, they did it. They got them. Stuxnet managed to infect itself onto a USB stick that was then carried from the internet connected facility on ground level all the way down into the underground bunker that has these centrifuges, and infected the machine, infected the completely air gapped machine, and helped significantly shorten the lifespan of those centrifuges. Yeah, mad, mad, mad. Going back to acronyms, I hate acronyms, especially when you're in work meetings and someone comes up with an acronym that you haven't heard before, which turned out to be 3 other acronyms acronymed. Oh god, that's awful. I mean, I generally don't. I like using acronyms when discussing technical things, in the sense that I don't like having to repeat myself, and like say the long thing lots, um but also that sounds like living hell, so yeah, no. Have the odd Windows NT. Damn, Mark, what is it that you generally do? I mean, machines are standalone with support PCs running 10 that handle network. What is it you do, out of interest? Um, you don't know acronyms until you work in a waste company. Um, Fair. I'm sure there's some interesting ones. Shodan constantly scan the web and report obsolete OSs, and they're the good guys. Yeah, actually, speaking of hacking, there's a channel that I have stumbled across that I highly recommend if you're as much of a nerd as I am, which is Matt Brown. Is that his name? Please hold. Yeah, Matt Brown. In fact, there you go. He posted a video today with a Toto-Link Wi-Fi router, where not only is the device itself potentially easily compromised, but the server that handles the firmware update. So first of all, the router does communicates with that update server through plain text, HTTP, not HTTPS, not encrypted, which is already bad. The update uh, process is it sends a GET request to the server, and then the server replies with some JSON with one of the key value pairs being URL, and then if it's blank, there's no firmware update, and if there is a firmware update, it has the URL for it, and it just downloads it with no like authentication or checking or anything. I don't think it even has a checksum with it, which is real bad. So that's one thing. But the other thing is that the server itself is completely insecure. You can run. It has a remote code execution vulnerability on it that you can run any command, like ls-a, to just see what's in the folder that the server's running. Like, real bad. And what's even worse is that someone has already hacked that server and put their own remote code execution file in there so that if the original remote code execution bug is ever fixed, which is not really a bug, it's just a configuration issue in the PHP server, but if it is fixed, they have another backdoor that they've left for themselves so that if that's fixed, they can still do remote code execution. And so, yeah, do not use the TotoLink router. Like, any of them. Apparently, the company is well known for being woefully insecure in general, so... eh. Install and fix electron microscopes for high electronic manufacturing. So, all the people you mentioned. Right, nice! I mean, that's pretty cool. TotoLink, I think is a Chinese brand, and I think is a really cheap brand. I don't know whether you can get them in the UK though. I did not check. I mean, it might only be an Asian market only type thing as well. So, yes, so do I. At some point I might swap to a custom router, although it's probably still easier to leave that because it has the whole Zen credentials stuff. So, it might actually be easier to leave that there and then just have all of my internal network run by an open sense router. So, I don't know. What I've got now is working fine, so I'll go with that for now. What really grinds my gears when people insist on pronouncing acronyms that should not be pronounceable. Can you give me a description? Then lets you have the credentials to use on your own. Yeah, they do. I just don't know if I would be bothered to actually set it up. I don't know. If they did more than a 1 gig, like a gig plus package, I don't know that I would bother paying for it. So also no, but yeah, I don't know. It's GIF, not GIF, or it's GIF, not GIF. Also, you know, when they changed the graphics interchange format, or whatever it is, yeah. I'm on 3 gig and don't even use it. Yeah, I'm still at a point where I'm on gigabit down and 100 meg up, and that is more than fine. Basically never have to wait for anything, including game updates. It just happens. So, yeah, it wouldn't make any sense here. It's work related stuff. Okay, fair. Well, I I I'm sorry for your completely understandable frustration. You don't have a gig up, peasant. Yeah, no, I know, but I'm only using 600k right now. um, it actually tends to be a bit faster than rated as well, which is quite nice. Tends to be closer to 200 up. Because I'm one of the only people in the entire area that are that's paying for gigabit here. um The longest part of uploading a YouTube video is the YouTube processing, not the upload. The upload takes minutes. Me and Mr. Two's he is far enough away that it definitely on a different exchange. um, I mean, close enough that he's only probably a 20-minute drive away, but still. Funny, SpeedNet seems to be slow increasing. Like languish for years and no change, then sudden bursts where capacity and compute got better and better. Speed seems. Um, yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, the fact that we went like the biggest change is from fiber being introduced, both fiber to the cabinet originally with we went from ADSL, which was like a couple meg, to VDSL, which is up to like 70 meg, to which is fiber to the cabinet, and then fiber to the property where you're getting 100 to gigabit. The main thing is actually, I don't think you'll be able to see it, but down there, behind there for me, there's a little green light, and that green light is my. In fact, wait, hold on. No, you can't see it. It's blocked with the chair. That green light is my fiber to Ethernet converter, like the OpenReach one. That is a gigabit device. So even if the cabinet was upgraded to higher than gigabit, and Zen started offering a package that's higher than gigabit, without changing that little box, I cannot get higher than gigabit in the house. And then obviously you need a higher than gigabit router. But yeah. They have like 20 terabyte drives on the old SATA bus, and copper speed went to like low double digit megabyte transfers until fiber came along, akin to NVMe. I mean, yeah, that's true. Yeah. I think there's with hard drives there's quite the difference between capacity and speed. The speed hasn't changed, at least on the hard drive front. It's only the capacity that's gotten higher. Whereas with NVMe's, both capacity and speed are rising as we get higher PCIe bus versions. Yeah. Jim, not yet, sadly. This process takes a long time to even get started. So the and yeah, I don't have my let's call it prescription appointment until the end of November. I probably won't actually start the medication until best case start of December. Realistically, probably closer to the end of December, and then the changes themselves take, I mean, minimum of 3 months, like bare minimum, to start seeing really anything, and there won't be significant changes for like 12 months, 24 months. I mean, after like this time next year, there'll be quite the difference. This time next week, no. Yeah. My ISP put a 10 gig fiber to Ethernet in my house. I mean, fair play. They got money, I guess. Hello, Alex. I got a X870E gaming. Great name, great naming there, Jesus. And 9950X and 120 gig Corsair 6000. Is it good or did I do wrong? I mean, it obviously depends on what you're doing, playing, doing. But I mean, it's hard to go wrong with buying the top end chip that AMD makes right now. You know, like it depends what you're doing. If there was potentially a better value for money, if there's potentially a slightly better performing chip, like possibly. But again, it's really hard to say that buying, especially AMD's top chip, is anything other than a damn good thing. So, yeah. I'm going from a 5950X and an X570 S Master. I mean, yeah, that's going to be quite the upgrade. And the fact that the motherboard should be good for a number of chips as well. Enough RAM for days. That's true. Speaking of networks, my mate's house is finally finished now, so I have to fit off fiber network around the house. 100 gig all over, so nice and fast. Nice. Just don't ask how much. 50k for pre-wire. Damn, that's a lot. I mean, what's kind of funny is that now that I own the house, I'm thinking about like I'm probably gonna put a little like table or something behind. I have a like chimney breast fireplace mantle in every room in the house because this house predates electricity, sewage, and gas. Um, but the there's a sort of a bit of a dead space behind my desk, and I currently have all of my networking gear on my desk, and it's kind of annoying. So what I want to do is have a little sort of desk or something behind it, or like table or something behind it, to put all of my networking gear on that, and then have all of the networking cables that don't need to be in this room run through a hole in the wall, because next to me is the stairs, and there's a cupboard under the stairs, which is where my electrical consumer unit is and all that. And then have anything that I want to run, say, to the front of the house. So I've got two security cameras in the room. I'd like one of them to be outside, so I can run the wire up the wall here or up the other side of this wall, and then along the ceiling above, and then out the wall just through the ceiling. And the one that stays in this room I can mount to the ceiling in here. So all that sort of stuff, I can, run networking cables around the house. But it's kind of funny to hear. I'm thinking like I'm gonna buy a nice new roll of Cat 6 and, have like do it myself, and it'll be fine. And you're like 50k for 100 gig all over the house. Nice. um, so yeah, different not prior different price brackets. Yeah. 20 quid in a dream, 50k in a house. So on AM5 motherboard, 4 RAM sticks don't run at 6000. I have not tested Ryzen 9000, so I can't say for sure. But I'm not entirely sure. I'm pretty sure that 6400 is still pretty stable with Ryzen. But yeah, I don't. Unfortunately, AMD hasn't given me many Ryzen chips recently, so I've not been using them. So I don't have as much experience, I'm afraid. Might as well make it as future-proof as possible. I mean, yeah, if you got the money, why not, right? And especially if you're building from scratch and you have the option. Obviously, here I am going to be retrofitting while taking up as few floorboards as possible. Yeah. 64 gigs more than enough anyway. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have 64 gig of RAM, and while I could probably do with 128, it's fine. I don't run out of RAM anymore, which is the main problem, or the main thing. But I also do video edit basically every day, so I have a reason. Just use powerline adapters. God no. No thanks. No thanks. I'm good. There's over 70 fuses in the switchboard. Damn. I have 4. Or 5 actually. Yeah. I'm definitely underfused though. um Yeah, I have one main socket ring or circuit breaker. I have a second radial spur to the back of the kitchen. The boiler's on its own feet now. There's a lighting circuit. Yeah. Yeah. Um, we have actual fuses, not even RCDs or GFCI or whatever. Um, I mean, so did I until worryingly recently. I remember the main consumer board died on New Year's Eve one time. It was very sad. Actually, yeah, one Christmas, at my parents' house, the fuse blew for like one of the main plug socket rings, um, and it was the old like fuse wire kind, not like a nice little replaceable fuse or anything or a breaker. No, it was like wire wound. I think it was like 5 amp as well. So we're like driving around real close to Christmas. Like I think it might have been Christmas Eve, driving to like Halfords and stuff, trying to find fuse wire. Um, yeah. Uh, 50 900 XT, 6800 XT. God, I hate MD's naming scheme. 16 gig of RAM tuned only game. What's the upgrade path? Well, realistically, like, so 16 gig of RAM is probably uh it is the obvious low hanging fruit to me. Uh, if you only game, it probably doesn't matter that much. Perhaps you could check your utilization while you're gaming. Monitor that, see how it's doing. Um, Realistically, that CPU is still perfectly fine, and like your uh CPU matters a lot less for gaming. It depends on what resolution you're gaming at as well, and settings and things like that. Um, to sort of what percentage of the load and of the bottleneck one might be. But generally speaking, the answer is new GPU. Um, so yeah, it looking at just those three things, if I was going to upgrade stuff, it would probably be uh, either the GPU or RAM, and then either the GPU or RAM, and only then I would say the CPU. Because generally speaking, I mean, so if you're gaming at 1440p, that the CPU matters less than it does at 1080p generally. It also depends on settings and things and what games you play, but as a sweeping generalization, the CPU matters a lot less, and so a 7800 XT, 7900 XT, an 8700 XT, an 8800 XT, an 8900 XT, whatever, when that's available, or a 40 or 50, 70, 80, 90, swapping that one of those cards in is likely to give you a much higher performance bump than swapping to a 285K, or whatever. So yeah, or a even a 7800X3D. That still means new motherboard, possibly definitely new RAM. And yeah, so I would say GPU, possibly RAM, depending on your utilization. You say utilization is up to about 8 gigs, so fair enough. Once that becomes more of a problem, stick some more in. Otherwise, yeah. Noble chair armrest already broke. I might just get an office chair. I mean, fair. I have had one noble chair armrest break. Which one was it? I think it was in this one, and I think I'd had it for several years. But feel free to give Noble and or overclockers a message, and they should be able to send you a new one pretty easy. They sent me a new set when mine broke. Admittedly, I am aware that I have a different relationship to companies than your average person a lot of the time. So My experience is not necessarily the same as yours would be, but yeah, hopefully. I am special. I'm special in a lot of ways. Yeah. Deary me. Anyway, as Simon so beautifully put it, it's probably time for us to head off. I will see you all on Monday for a video, because today's video is tomorrow's video. That makes sense. Doesn't have to. Go watch the Intel video that I've launched if you haven't already seen it. And yeah, otherwise I'll see you Monday. And yeah, I'll catch you guys next week for a stream. Bye.